Yeah, it says the broadcast has started, that we're live.
Okay, the light's on.
Yep. Okay, so no videos were found. You have got to be shitting me.
Fuck.
We're live. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's going to.
We'll do it and then we'll share it, and then I'll share it later once it's done recording. I'm done stressing this. Let's just move on. Okay. So, barring all these crazy ass technical difficulties that keep fucking happening this morning, I apologize. We're only 25 minutes late.
Hey!
Has it been 25 minutes?
It is 8:25. I tried to get this started.
Technical difficulties.
I love technical difficulties. Let's link everything.
That's one of the
separate accounts on one account. Anyway, today's rant is about something near and dear to all of our hearts. Oh wait, no, not hearts. Assholes. Sins of
cockles, maybe the subcockles.
Yeah, sins of the records. We're gonna start this week though with talking about Last Stand of the Records, because Last Stand of the Records was actually really, really, really good.
Yes.
So the whole thing with Last Stand of the Records with me was it had always been sort of a background thing. They never flat out said it, but it was always just sort of, it was one of those, they didn't say it, but it was there.
Kind of a macrocosm.
Records were not heroes. They were rabid dogs kept on a leash by Autobot High Command. And they were let off the leash to go deal with bigger problems that they couldn't directly deal with. They were Autobot pet psychopaths.
They were Black Ops. They were Autobot Black Ops.
The Expendables.
Yeah, but they were all, they're more notorious members, like Impactor, Whirl, Roadbuster. They were certifiable lunatics when it came to being on the battlefield. And not that that's a bad thing, but they weren't heroes. They were psychos. They were living weapons that they pointed at an enemy and said, kill them. They were... Go ahead.
They were basically tools used by the primacy to keep their hands clean.
Yes. And here's what I found interesting. This was probably the most interesting thing outside of Overlord's character, Last Stand of the Wreckers. It showed that because of Impactor being sent to Garrus 9. Now, they made a cover story for when Impactor murdered Squadron X. That Squadron X had broken free of their restraints and he was forced to kill them. They had already made that story and everybody bought it. But then they made up a story about him selling poisoned energon or something like that, and that's why they sent him to Garrus 9. I don't think that he got sent to Garrus 9 because he killed Squadron X. I think he got sent to Garrus 9 because he disobeyed Prowl.
Yes.
That does seem to be the most likely.
Yeah, they don't care that he killed Garrus 9 and violated the treaty. It's that he didn't do it more.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to finally see that, they flat out showed that while they did quote unquote heroic things, they were rabid dogs. Not that that's, it's a wartime narrative, but they were Autobot High Command pet monsters.
Pet monsters.
Yeah. Now, fast forward to Sins of the Record.
Oi.
And ignoring all the continuity. Did I say that correctly this time, Ledoux?
Yes. Yes, you did.
Ignoring all the discrepancies with that, like how Guzzle went from being a midget to in human terms, 9 foot tall. Ignoring all the stuff like that, Sins of the Wreckers had so much potential when it started. It had so much potential to be the next great thing and to actually redeem some of the retardedness that IDW has become. I think my biggest issue with it was that, so the title Sins of the Wreckers, we saw a little bit with Last Stand of the Wreckers into the past of what the Wreckers had done and what the actual, when you strip away the wartime narrative, what their actual conduct was. I was looking forward to actually seeing, what Whirl had done, but we kind of got to see the Roadbuster incident, but it was only like 2 panels worth, and it was just him torturing cadets.
Jeez.
I was looking forward to actually like seeing that there's really not a black and white between Autobot and Decepticon when it comes to how far they're willing to go. I was looking forward to them showing that a soldier is a soldier. Doesn't matter how you define it.
Yeah.
So when Sins of the Wreckers became this weird tarantulas has a son and it's Springer, and I don't know if I'd call it gay for Prowl, but obviously he wanted Prowl in his life.
Wait,
The
you
fuck?
mean to wait? Springer is Tarantulas' son?
Tarantulas originally called was it Methuselah or Methuselah or something like that?
Methuselah.
Yeah, he was a scientist who created weapons of mass destruction for the Autobots under Prowl's designs.
Because
And-
I don't say it often enough, what in the actual depleted uranium fuck?
Yeah. So, but he was a super genius. He was like on par with Perceptor and Shockwave. But like his whole thing was he could only be inspired. You know, he could never come up with something on himself. He would get told, "Hey, we need this," and then he would make it. He couldn't start on his own, and he found a way to, without matrix energy, create an artificial spark that was completely stable. He found a way to artificially create Cybertronian life, and that life became Springer. Now, see, that in and of itself, that's one of those things where after IDW, where I go back and I'm like, okay, so that's kind of an interesting idea. But then when they had Tarantulas at the end have his little freak out and go try to reunite with him, I don't understand what that was about. I mean, Tarantulas spent thousands of years trapped inside that noise maze thing, so he's clearly certifiably insane. But
Yes.
Lunacy.
I just that whole thing, like its last. I know that a lot of people didn't like the middle issue 3, but from issue 4 and 5, it was total and pure shit, as far as I was concerned.
I saw it going to the pure and utter shit in the middle of issue 3. I'm like, oh no, here we go. Yeah, it started out being great. I'm like, ooh, and I was excited. And then through issue 3, I'm like, oh no. Here we go, back into the pit of shit.
Yeah.
It was good while it lasted.
So another thing with it was in the very last panel of the very last issue, because they never flat out actually show Springer killing Tarantulas. They kind of charge at each other.
Yeah.
And then it has like a 2 weeks later moment. And but in the very last panel, in the very last panel, Springer is in his armored attack vehicle mode, and Verity Carlo is sitting on top of him. And they're talking about how long can this last before we have to go back to what our lives have become. And there's a little tiny spider hanging inside Springer's wheel well. So are they flat out saying that Tarantulas is alive, or is that just sort of we're going to leave that Easter egg, so if we need to, we can come back to it?
Yeah, it looked to me like a convenient plot device that when they need to use the character again, they can do it without having to make up some high convoluted way of bringing him back from the dead like they did with other plot devices with big, luscious, pouty lips.
Including,
Hey, I liked Overlord.
Overlord in Last Stand of the Wreckers is perfect. I loved the way he was portrayed in that.
Yeah.
Because while he's a psycho, mass-murdering psychopath, there's always a reason behind it. You know, people say to the madness, Overlord, everything he did, no matter how monstrous, was always carefully orchestrated and planned.
It's like Malcolm McDowell.
Okay. I'll let you have that one. But so, I mean, the probably the biggest disappointment for me with Sins of the Wreckers is how much potential was wasted.
Yeah.
I mean, we really had a chance to actually have a moment of, hey, remember when IDW, it's a member berry moment. Remember when IDW was good?
Yep.
And
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
It just, and I was so excited to see that the same writer and artist was doing Sins of the Wreckers that did Last Stand.
Yes, that's what made me so excited for it.
He knows how to write a good story. However, when he is handed an arc progression that is essentially shit, you can't put a flower in shit and call it art.
Damn straight.
Still shit with a flower in it.
Don't shit on my sundae and call it chocolate fudge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sins of the Wreckers was a pile of shit with a flower in it.
Yeah. What I did like, the one thing I did like, though, again, towards the end, one of those moments where I go, okay, all right, is all the beast formers, the renegades that Tarantulas had gathered together. Now they work under Impactor as their own independent third group that's neither aligned to Autobot or Decepticon. And I'm vaguely interested in seeing what they do with that, if anything at all. I'm sure they'll ruin it. I'm sure they'll ruin it.
Oh,
Ruin
absolutely.
Everything they touch.
I was not happy to see the Beast bots to begin with. I think there's way too much universe crossing.
I can see that.
There could have been another way to do this instead of the rampant universe crossing pandering that the main titles that IDW have been doing.
They cross the universal streams. You
Oh.
never cross the universal streams.
I'll tell you this much, though. I loved the way Tarantulas looked.
Yes.
I loved how they took his transmetal body structure, but made it with the organic detailing. I loved the way his robot mode looked. That looked cool.
When we finally saw Tarantulas, it was a very impactful panel. When you finally got to see who you were actually dealing with.
I'm completely unashamed to say this. I squealed like Ledoux when she got her first horse.
I hate you. You're
Don't
a
you
bitch.
squeal like that whenever she gets pumpkin spice?
I hate
It was
you all.
exciting. It was very exciting, and that was the last moment that really impressed me. I was looking for more explanations to, the sins of the Wreckers.
More exposition.
Yeah, like I said, that was a huge thing that pissed me off too, because all we got to see of what the Wreckers had done, we've known since Last Stand that they're basically war criminals they're justifiable war criminals. But all we got to see in Sins of the Wreckers was we finally got to see the Roadbuster incident, and that was it, and it was minor.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Prowl and Tarantulas was kind of overdone and unnecessary.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be all that theatrical. But
Isn't Tarantulas known for being a ham, though?
yes, but the whole discussion between Prowl and Tarantulas.
Yeah, about their past relationship. Yeah.
We got to see more Prowl sins than anything else, and I'm sorry, I was under the impression that this was supposed to be Sins of the Wreckers, not Sins of Prowl.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it started out great, and then, like an aircraft that suddenly has engine failure on all four engines, it kind of, floated and turned and slammed itself into the ground.
You know what I was hoping we'd get to see? Speaking of Tarantulas being a ham, I was hoping we'd get to see him be a ham like he was in the Beast Wars cartoon, where when he captures Tigerhawk, and Tigerhawk says you're insane, and he goes, so they say. You know,
Fuck.
Yeah, I
weird.
remember that.
I was waiting for stuff like that where there's always this huge, much grander plan, and nope, he's just a lunatic in a laboratory fucking with people.
They wasted a perfectly good plot.
Yeah, it fell completely short of the mark, and Nick disappointed me with that. I expected so much more and got nothing.
Zip.
It kind of made me angry.
Yeah.
Was this when this debuted? Was IDW already like in the hole of everything being shitty, or was it just
Yes.
kind of starting?
Yeah, they had already fallen off the deep end, and a lot of us old school fans heard, "Oh, this new miniseries is coming out called Sins of the Wreckers," and we went, "What?" And then they revealed, "Yeah, it's being written by the same guy who did Last Stand of the Records," and we were like, "Oh my god, they're gonna get good again!" And then we got shit on.
Yep. It's kind of like
Wow.
kind of like trying to pass off a jar of piss as Granny's old apple cider.
Kaboom!
Yeah. It just, but like I said before, it had to stick with the existing arcs. It had to go along the same timeline as what we had going on. So kudos to the artist. You just, no matter how good you are as an author, if you are handed an arc line that is garbage, you can't make that beautiful.
There's
No.
nothing you can do. You
I-
just have to do it.
Since when has IDW paid attention to timelines?
Oh, they used to.
When Simon Furman was still doing stuff for him.
Bingo.
AKA when they were good.
Yeah.
I loved the art style though.
Well, yeah.
I know some people thought that it was a bit too gritty looking. I know that was a complaint on a lot of reviews that I've read and heard. But I loved the art style personally. I thought it was good.
Well, the gritty art style went along with what he was trying to purvey as a gritty plot. And I get that. And while Nick Roche is not my favorite artist, his portrayals are a little bit too cartoony most of the time. But they worked in this.
Yeah.
I was just disappointed because Nick Roche is notoriously famous for coming up with really good stories. He knows his subject matter. He knows his fans of said subject matter. And I just think that, you know, he was handed a giant pile of doo-doo and had to work with it, and voila, Sins of the Wreckers.
I will say this. While it was ultimately a disappointment, he did polish that turd well.
He did the best he could. You know, hats off to you, Nick. You tried, and we see your effort, but overall, it started out great and just landed it, you know, nose down into the dirt.
It's really sad when artists like essentially sacrifice their skill and respectability for money because they have no
Well,
other choice.
He's got a family to feed.
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks, but you know, you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day.
Sometimes you do some very distasteful things for family.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Things you don't want to talk about.
I would equate him in Sins of the Wreckers to he is an incredibly looking at his previous works and whatnot. He is an incredibly talented writer and artist.
Yes.
It's like a carpenter. He's used to working with balsa wood and cherry wood and having tung oil, and someone handed him some old particle board and some acrylic paint.
He did his best.
He did the best he could with what he had, and I salute him for that. And as I said, about the first half of it was actually pretty good. But, I mean, he's... Again, ultimately, the flaw comes back to Jimmy Bobby.
Yes.
The world that Jimmy Bobby has turned IDW Transformers into is what he had to work with. I mean, you can't grow a rose from a pumpkin seed.
Legit
I
though.
don't think even tarantulas can do that. Shockwave maybe, but not tarantulas.
Shockwave maybe. No, you can't just do that.
Oh my god, you know what I just realized?
What?
Tarantulas is why there's still Or-13 on Earth.
Huh.
Because in Sins of the Wreckers, Tarantulas turned Or-13 into the Orsonium or whatever he called it.
Yep.
So Tarantulas is why there's still Or-13 on Earth, because he created more of it to have more raw product to work with. That's what they're going to do.
Which is garbage.
That's a cheap
Sorry.
That's a cheap cop, and that's why they're going to do it.
Yep. Why not? It's par for the course.
Because retcon.
Yeah.
Retcon is the best tool they have in their toolbox. In fact, it is the only tool they have.
Well, they also have one of those screwdrivers that's for like the McDonald's toy where it ends in a triangle.
I know which ones you're talking about. I hate those ones.
But
Yes.
yeah.
Sins of the Wreckers, the biggest problem again that I had, again I'm repeating myself, it was such a waste of potential.
Yeah.
That was the biggest crime of it. It was such a waste of potential. They could have done so much. They could have revealed the wartime narrative. They could have revealed what Optimus Prime personally knew about. I mean, they could have done so much because the whole thing with it was that they were terrified of the transcripts from Aquarius or Quadius or whatever it was called.
Equitus.
They were so terrified of all those wartime transcripts and trial notifications getting put out into public. They were terrified of that because it would have undermined the Autobot propaganda and ideals.
Kind of like WikiLeaks.
Yeah. So yeah, basically. So I was so disappointed that we didn't get to see more of what had actually happened and who knew about it.
Yeah, it was like by issue 3, almost the whole beginning setup had been forgotten.
Yeah.
It almost appeared to be 2 different story arcs written completely separate of one another, and they tried to shoehorn them together. And it sort of, kind of worked. But
it's kind of like taking 2 different components from MicroMaster combiners and slapping them together, even though they make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's like putting the rocket base onto one of the tanks.
Yeah, or the ass end of a B-1 bomber onto a dump truck.
Yeah, yes, it'll still roll around, it'll still be a vehicle, but it makes no sense.
Yeah, and I just... And I at the beginning, when you see, Verity running away with these transcripts, I was like, oh my god, we get to find out about all of the prior primacy dirt that nobody wanted to know about, and it just turned into Prowl and Tarantulas? What?
Yeah, I mean, like, so Impactor killed Squadron X, and the cover story was that they escaped and were getting away, and he was left with no choice. I'd be interested in how many times, say, Optimus Prime has personally executed a helpless prisoner. And it was doctored up as that person attacked him.
Yeah, there was so many possibilities for direction, and they went in one that was completely irrelevant and unrelated.
I think, like I said, my favorite moment in the entirety of that miniseries was the Tarantulas reveal. And I think my second favorite moment was when, because we find out that Verity Carlo is dying due to the radiation she was exposed to when they found the Justice computer or whatever on Garrus 9. And she said that Tarantulas must have done something to her because she feels weird. And Tarantulas rises up out of the shadows, and he goes, "Oh, don't worry, Meatbag. By the time we're done here, I'll have done something weird to everyone." I liked that because that was kind of a nod and a wink to the slapstick psycho that Tarantulas is supposed to be. But again, then they immediately go back to, "Oh my God, my little boy is still alive."
I think I know what
That's
that
so
was.
gay.
That feeling was that Verity was feeling. That was probably her kidneys going into renal failure.
Well, they reveal in issue 5 that he actually cured her for whatever reason.
Oh, how
it's kind of
amazing.
hard to torture someone for an indefinite amount of time if they're dying.
Well, true, but again, that goes towards Pyro's thing where it seems like it was 2 stories stapled together. I mean, Tarantulas, I could see him like hooking her up to a life support thing to keep her alive long enough to torture, but I don't see him curing her.
That's a disturbing thought.
Probably do like what they did to Daniel in not season 4, but in the Rebirth.
Or
Yeah,
what?
okay, I could see him like chopping off all of her limbs and replacing them with robotic parts and shit, like pulling a Dr. Arkvile on her.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Bombshell did to Hunter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see him doing something like that, but I couldn't see him just, "Oh, but by the way, she's done. She's cured."
Yeah, that was just way too convenient.
That seems like he wrote the first half of the story and it was going to be what everyone wanted, and then whoever, probably James Roberts, came in and went, "I don't like that. I don't want her to die."
Yeah, fuck you, James Roberts. He's probably watching this.
Die left and right, and you can't.
Right? Am I unjustified in saying that's what
The
happened?
one human in the group.
I see that as a possibility. They have grown to like to do that. They'll like push a story so far, and then nope, we're gonna keep this convenient little plot device in our back pocket and bring it out whenever we see fit to do so. And other writers do this, but they don't do it so obviously, so
Often.
primary color kindergarten way. They do it with a little bit more panache, a little bit more skill.
Now, I know that a lot of people dislike the notion of the Pretenders. I like the Pretender process mostly because of Bludgeon and Thunderwing and the way that they've been portrayed throughout most of the comics, particularly in G1 and G2.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see, because one of the things that they went with Sins of the Records is Tarantulas has fully mastered and perfected the notion of mass shifting. He can go from the size of a regular tarantula up to almost as big as Devastator. Now, there's drawbacks to that and everything, but he's basically mastered it. So I could see Tarantulas dissecting Verity Carlo alive over and over and over and keeping her alive and using her as a template to perfect the Pretender process, because why the fuck not?
Vivisecting.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting notion to like have like an entire half an issue dedicated to him doing just horrible shit to her just because he's never had a human test subject or whatever.
I'd say quit giving IDW ideas, but these are good, and take note, guys.
Legit, they're probably watching.
I have no mouth and I must scream comes to mind with what you just said about Tarantulas and vivisecting Verity.
Yeah. Like actually, like have him like straight up like pull all of her organs out, and they're each hooked up to their own support thing, but she's still alive. I mean, there's so much potential for a gore story that you could do with that, and they totally just sidestepped it.
Yeah, well, they're going to, because the readership seeks safe spaces a lot. So they're not going to go ooh gross and alienate the readership that they've built with the Tumblr tards and the safe space thumbsuckers. So yeah, that will be saved for like real comic book writers, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe what's his name?
I make this plea as an old school fan and a fan of some of the new school stuff. Simon Furman, please come back to us.
Please come
Yes,
back.
please.
We miss you. Come home.
If I have to, I will pull some random off the street, rip his heart out, and scream Kali Ma until it bursts into flames.
I love you guys' optimism. I really do. And I miss Mr. Furman as well. But we all know the reality of the situation.
Yeah, we do.
Unfortunately.
We can dream.
I can hope and dream.
And if a Cybertronian such as myself could shed a tear, I would. Because we do miss you. We do miss you, Mr. Furman. Your fabulous story crafting, your skill.
Your Furmanisms.
How his tongue-in-cheek stuff actually was tongue-in-cheek and not hammer on the head.
Or hammer on the foot, as it were, with you.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Forgive us, great Furman. We have your children have strayed far from the path you have set before us.
We're lost as shit, even lost worse than LT.
I still can't find Straxus.
How did you already lose him?
He's an LT. I made him the G2 Combaticons LT and poof, gone.
But
If I want to find fucknuts, all I got to do is find some pile of Dilophosaurus poop. I'm sure his remains are in there.
The best thing about Shattered Glass Straxus is he works perfectly as being a comparison to Army, because he went gold, so he's an LT, and he's also gold and Dayglow green, so he's already a PT belt.
I'm telling you, I need to find me some reflective ribbon so I can make PT belts.
But yeah, the Wrecker stories, so much potential lost. Just poof.
Well, I mean, even if you have to look at old stuff to try and get inspiration, because it was the '89 annual, I think, and I think I talked to you guys about this at the last Decepticast I attended. There was it was a What If, and it was in the far removed future, and the Autobots had won the Great War, and the Wreckers essentially restarted it and started an Autobot civil war. There is so much you could do with the Wreckers. It is literally limitless.
I can see them pulling off something like with the bonus army of 1918, 1919. It was a group of World War I veterans who had not been paid their bonuses after the war, who set up an encampment outside of D.C., and they were put down rather violently by General Patton with tanks. Well, he wasn't a general yet, but he rolled in with tanks to get rid of them.
It just so the idea of the Wreckers is a long idea, and it has so much potential to be a truly great thing. It actually gives the Autobots that rough around the edges feel to them, being combatants in a long war.
Yeah, they're not clean
against the insidious forces of the Decepticons. Yeah, you got to fight fire with fire sometimes, and the Wreckers.
But you don't punish an arsonist with napalm, though. That's sort of what some of the Wreckers seem to be.
Well, yeah, this is true, but that's the downside of having a black ops team. You're going to get dirty in the end, but you're going to win.
Yeah.
And you want to try and keep black ops in the black. When they go gray, that's when the problems start to begin. I think that's what happened on Pova, the incident where Impactor killed Squadron X.
Yeah.
And that's always what happens, but that's the thing, the price you pay.
What is it? Tony Stark, as Iron Man, says peace means having the bigger stick.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and I totally understand the need for a Black Ops team like the Wreckers, but the missed opportunities from Sins just, it hurt. It cut deep.
Yeah.
It's the worst kind of thing.
But
Well,
Oh boy.
on to more positive things. At least the DJD are finally dead.
Hell. Yay.
Hell yeah, boy.
Granted, it was the most pandering piece of shit yet when they did it. But
Their first
Yeah.
appearance in which one was that? With the Scavengers.
that was shit. They were still in the team with issue numbers. I know what you're talking about, though. Who's afraid of the DJD?
Yeah, that one.
it just, well, the death of the DJD was a long time coming. They had been dealing with a lot of backlash from them for a long, long time, and they tried to fix it when they brought in
Nickel.
The complaining about how overpowered they were and how impossible they are to exist within the ranks of the Decepticons. They decided to try to dial it back by bringing in Nickel, which was probably it made it worse, is what it did.
It was an
was
attempt at a
cancerous.
morality pet for them.
It put a skirt and lipstick on the DJD. It was the complete. It was an extreme direction.
Here's
When it was discovered that it was also not like, they just said fuck it and just killed him.
here's one of the biggest problems with the DGD, the character of Tarn in particular. Ignoring all the issues that stemmed from the fact that Megatron would never, ever allow anyone to be more powerful than him that he couldn't instantly control like he could in Six Shot. There's the issues with the inconsistencies with the character of Tarn. Now, the DJD were portrayed as bloodthirsty psychopaths above and beyond anything the Decepticons had ever had before. So, okay, he's a lunatic, so his character is going to be inconsistent. However, one of the first targets they're shown killing, if not the first target, was Black Shadow, who's always been depicted as being basically as tall as Overlord. And Tarn is easily eye to eye with Black Shadow. And that's even before they cut off his legs.
Wasn't Black Shadow paid off by the Autobots to attack a Decepticon fleet?
Based on his body structure and his size, for a long time it was thought that Tarn was Roller, as depicted in IDW. He matches the body structure. He has a similar transformation sequence. Megatron tells him, if I hadn't corrupted you, and that he made him into Tarn to prove something to someone. So there was all this shit where clearly it was going to be Roller, and they made it into Glitch. Him being Roller was not a red herring, as they're acting like. They were pissed off, specifically Jimmy Bobby was pissed off that people saw through his bullshit so quickly, and so he changed it last minute so he could act like he was clever. That's what.
Yeah, and it was so obvious. It was so obvious. Wow, this rant has gone way ranty back into IDW bullshit. But yeah.
We've come full circle.
Yeah, the DJD should have never happened.
And it's again, Turmoil is what Tarn should have been. He was powerful. He was intimidating. He had a vaguely ambiguous backstory. He was actually loyal to the cause and Megatron, but he wasn't psychotically overpowered. And a bunch of G1ers loved him, so of course they killed him off as soon as they possibly could.
Fuck.
Pretty much as soon as they find out G1ers like a character.
Yeah, they're like, oh, G1ers like him? Let's have Starscream kill him.
Yeah, it's yet more evidence that the direction that IDW is going is to write essentially a thinly veiled fuck you to the Furman fans.
Yeah.
And I can point out at least 30 different instances in More Than Meets the Eye where they have taken Furman's work and destroyed it. And just flipped at the bird and destroyed it. Dark Cybertron was a glaring example of that. The DJD, also a glaring example of how they just love to take Furman's work and take a giant dump on it. Yeah, I could go on and on and on about it. What they did to Grimlock was another thing. What they did to Shockwave is another thing. They basically took Furman's pet characters, the ones that he spent years developing, and just completely destroyed it.
And you know what? To me, that's the unforgivable part. You can have a crappy comic, and that's one thing, but to deliberately disrespect previous writers makes it just a whole new level of shit.
And you know what that all stems from, right? It's because James Roberts can't stand that he doesn't get the unconditional love that Furman does.
Yeah.
That's what it stems from. He's pissed off that the fans don't like him universally like we did Furman. So he has to destroy everything Furman did as a giant fuck you to everybody who likes Furman.
Yeah, it just... And I could forgive it had More Than Meets the Eye started...
Been a hard reboot?
A complete hard reboot, started from scratch, and brought in all of his pet original characters and all this completely separate from the old verse. But no, they cherry-picked stuff from the old universe and made it a point to turn it to shit. That is the unforgivable thing.
Yeah, no.
You know, if you're gonna hate on the past, do it in a way that looks like you're ignoring it. Start over. Start your tale from scratch, from the beginning. Then you could have brought in, you know, whoever. The DJD would have been a little bit more acceptable because you wouldn't have acknowledged the past. You wouldn't have acknowledged the DSS. You wouldn't have acknowledged all the past events. And then you could get away with it. It would still suck, but you could get away with it without pissing off the Furman camp. But no, James Roberts didn't have the skill or the talent to write to do something that bold, that drastic, that complete starting over from your own beginning.
Ignoring the arrogance and hubris that he has. You know what the biggest tragedy of James Roberts is? When he works under other writers, he actually produces good stuff.
Yes. See, he was a co-writer on Last Stand of the Wreckers.
Yeah. He
was a co-writer on the tail end of Costa's title ongoing. He did some of his best work under other writers.
You know, it's having with the admin having worked in retail. You know what it reminds me of?
What?
He's that guy that does really, really well, and management goes, you know, he does a good job. There's a supervisor position coming open. Let's give it to him. And then as soon as he's a supervisor, he fucks everything up because he doesn't understand that he shouldn't have absolute control.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he is.
And yeah.
He's that guy that got promoted. He does really well at what he's at, but he should never actually be in charge.
Yeah. It's basically.
I know that has a specific name for that situation. I just can't remember what it is, though.
Shitbird?
No, I mean the principal.
But
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember it either. Anyway, moving on. So I think that, ignoring the segue into talking about the DJD, I think that was a pretty good assessment of Sins of the Wreckers. And there's one other little thing that I want to talk about, rant about before we call this wrapped. And I totally just brain farted on it. I know that Pyro considers it nothing more than pandering, but I actually really, really like the Scavengers. I know it's pandering to the G1ers to try and get them to come back, because the Scavengers are essentially the G1ers. The Great War's over, and they're sitting around looking at what's happened, going, what the fuck? And they're just trying to figure out what to do.
I know what happened. I want to know how we can make it unhappen.
Yeah.
Let's picture their action, their figures out in the field.
Damn it, spinster. What part of conjugate the verb don't you understand?
Unhappen.
It's pandering. It's yet another thinly veiled pandering, and I'm not hooked. I didn't take the bait. Sorry, I won't.
No, I'm not saying you have to, and I'm not going to try to justify it too, because I acknowledge it. All the characters and all of their character arcs and everything about them is pandering. I fully acknowledge that. I just think it's funny.
They're gonna kill him. Watch.
Oh yeah. As soon as they find out,
they already confirmed that the next time the Scavengers show, they're going to go to Earth, who are now armed to the teeth with anti-transformer weapons. They're going to kill them. They know that the G1ers like them, so now they have to kill them.
Absolutely, and they're going to do it in a terrible "fuck you, G1ers" way. Watch. It is going to be so infuriatingly bad. It's going to be like how Bruticus was killed.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Yeah, don't even. That was absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
No, they have to have their golden girl, Shitori, on. Dodge everything that comes her way.
She can shrug off an orbital laser like it's nothing. Just, my gravity powers, now I have a force field. Bruticus gets shot in the head with an anti-artillery shell from Ironhide, and done. And then all these fuckers who go, when he combined, Swindle was brain dead. They showed that when Starscream used the Enigma of Combination to recreate Superion after the aerial bots separated, it healed them all when it merged them. So why didn't it heal Swindle? Because retconning.
Lunacy.
Yes.
Lunacy.
Yeah, I could rant for days on the retconning, inconsistencies, pandering, and otherwise bullshit that IDW is trying to force feed us as a fandom. I could literally go on for days. But no one wants to hear me bitch for days.
Oh, well.
I do.
Same.
We'll save that for a different rant.
Well, anyway, I think that about covers it. Anybody else have anything to add?
Nope.
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
I got nothing.
I'd like to thank my special guests and commentators here, starting off with Decepticon Captain Ledoux, who is fresh from the Betty Ford Center, getting over her pumpkin spice addiction.
Watch, she's gonna be back on the wagon by tomorrow morning.
I'd like to thank
I hate you.
Brawl. I'd like to thank Brawl the Decepticon, who took time from his busy schedule of blowing things up.
Cause Tank.
And I'd like to thank Pyrostrata for taking time out of burning literally everything around her to the ground.
That's all right. I have another orphanage waiting for me.
Oh, take me with you.
Some cons just want to see the world burn.
This has been the first live Hunger Rant, even though technically it wasn't live because nobody's going to see it till I share the video.
Don't tell them that.
Technical difficulties notwithstanding, I think this actually went pretty well.
Yeah.
I had a hoot.
Oh
Yeah,
Yeah, it was fun.
and, I'm going to. I typically have Sundays off, and I think I'm going to try and make this a regular thing. So,
Yay!
standing invitation to most of the members of the Decepticast, if not all.
Sweet.
All right, so I am going to stop the broadcast.